So, do you two take turns? Or is it more of an open-door policy? That was the joke. That was the moment. Fork halfway to my mouth. Dessert untouched. 12 people around the table. My wife laughing before she even looked at me. I didn't laugh. Neither did the waiter, who happened to be walking by and stopped mid-step, like even he wasn't sure he heard that right. Laughter died quick. Now, I should have just smiled and let it pass, right? That's what they all expected. Shrug it off. Haha, office banter, just jokes, right? But I didn't. I looked at him. Bryce, of course his name was Bryce, and asked calmly. Before I answer that, can I ask how long you've been sleeping with my wife? You could hear a breadstick snap in someone's hand. My wife inhaled like she'd been punched. Bryce blinked. Once, then leaned back in his chair with the world's weakest smirk. He was trying to act unbothered. But his eyes? They sprinted away from mine. No one said a word. You could hear the jazz music playing overhead like it was suddenly way too loud. That's how the party ended, with my question hanging there like a chandelier about to fall. But let me rewind. Not to the beginning of our relationship. Not to some sappy honeymoon memory. Let me rewind exactly 72 minutes earlier. To the coat check. Because that's when I first knew. When the girl behind the counter took my wife's coat and said, "Are you meeting him here again?" with a wink. And Brenna, my wife, didn't correct her. She just laughed and said, "He's probably already at the bar." That laugh. That warm laugh. The one she used to use with me. Except I was standing right there. I didn't say anything in the car on the way there. Neither did she. The silence between us wasn't heavy. It was hollow, like something had already fallen out of the middle of us, and we were just too polite to mention it. Brenna was scrolling through her phone the entire ride. Occasionally she'd smile. Not at me, never at me anymore, but at the screen. Probably some meme from her group chat. Probably from him. I didn't even know his name yet, but I knew he existed. There's a certain way a woman gets ready for a night when she knows who she's going to see. She puts on perfume after her coat. She checks her teeth 3 times before walking into the venue. She brings lip gloss in her purse, even though she never does for date night with her husband. And Brenna had done all of that. When we stepped inside the venue, it was like walking into a staged version of her life, one she never invited me into. Fairy lights strung from the ceiling like the perfect Instagram backdrop. Fake laughter bouncing off polished floors. Clusters of coworkers that all seemed to look exactly the same. Well-dressed, well-spoken, and well aware that I didn't belong here. But Brenna? She belonged. She lit up. She was magnetic. I watched as people swarmed her the second we walked in, like she was the main character and I was just some background extra she dragged along. She introduced me to a few people, but always with that same dismissive tone. "This is Arlo, my husband." Like a footnote. Like a technicality. And then he walked in. I recognized him before I even knew who he was. You ever just know someone's a problem before they open their mouth? That was him. Navy blazer, no tie, shirt open 1 button too far. Perfect tan like he just got back from a trip he didn't pay for. Hair styled with intention, but meant to look careless. A face that had never heard the word humble. He spotted Brenna and smiled with his whole face. She smiled back with just her eyes. And I died a little. He came over. "Bryce," he said, holding out his hand like we were in a job interview. I shook it. His grip was too strong, like he was measuring something. He didn't ask what I did. Didn't ask how long we'd been married. He just nodded slowly, like I was a trivia fact he'd heard once and was trying to recall. We ended up seated across from each other at dinner. Of course. And he never stopped smiling. Never stopped talking. Stories, jokes, inside references I wasn't part of. Even when someone else was speaking, he'd lean over and whisper something to Brenna that made her laugh behind her hand. I didn't eat much. Just stared at my fork, then at the water glass, then at the chandelier above the table that kept flickering like it was on the verge of a blackout. Then came the joke, the one you already heard. "So, do you two take turns? Or is it more of an open-door policy?" The table exploded in laughter like it was the funniest thing they'd heard all night. And my wife who used to whisper, "I love you," during commercials just to be the first to say it, was laughing too. She didn't defend me. She didn't roll her eyes. She didn't even hesitate. She laughed. And that's when I said it. "Before I answer that, can I ask how long you've been sleeping with my wife?" You know what no one tells you about moments like that? It's not loud. It's quiet. Painfully, crushingly quiet. Like someone's pressing their hand over the speaker of your life, and turning the volume all the way down. People froze. Forks halfway up. Eyes wide. Bryce turned pale. Brenna blinked. Just once. Then looked down at her plate like maybe she could fall into it. But I didn't stop there. I stood up. Because, see, I've been playing dumb for months now. I saw the late-night texts. I heard her whispering in the bathroom. I know what it looks like when she deletes her entire call history before bed. Bryce muttered, "Dude," but I kept going. "Just needed confirmation," I said, tossing my napkin onto the table. "And your little joke? That'll do nicely." I didn't wait for her to follow me. I didn't wait for anyone to say anything. But as I walked out, I looked back one more time, and I swear to God, Brenna looked relieved. Relieved. Not shocked. Not sorry. Not embarrassed. Like I had just made it easier for her. And that, more than anything else, is what broke me. I didn't go home that night. I couldn't. I drove around for hours, looping through the same half-empty streets like my brain was buffering. Gas station lights. Silent traffic lights. A 24-hour diner with 2 people inside. It was like the whole world was asleep except me and my rage. I parked outside a CVS and just sat there with the engine running, trying to replay it all. The joke. The faces. That look Brenna gave me. The one I can't stop thinking about. That damn look. Not anger. Not guilt. Just freedom. Like I'd done her a favor. My phone buzzed around 2:13 a.m. It was a notification from our shared cloud account. I'd set it up 2 years ago when we were both too lazy to keep sending files back and forth. We used to drop each other silly voice notes, grocery lists, the occasional selfie. But this time, it was a voice memo, uploaded 2 minutes earlier. From her phone. The title was just one word. Unsent. I stared at it for a full minute. Heart racing. Palms sweating. I tapped play. At first, nothing. Just static and some background shuffling. Then I heard her voice. I can't tell him. I don't have the guts. And I keep hoping he'll find a reason to leave on his own. But Arlo doesn't know how to let go. He still thinks we're worth saving. My whole body went numb. It wasn't anger. Not yet. Just a hollow quiet. The kind you get right before something inside you snaps. She kept talking, unaware anyone would ever hear this. It didn't start with Bryce. I need to stop lying about that, even to myself. It started long before. I don't even think it's about Bryce. It's about me. I feel different when I'm not around Arlo. Lighter. Like I exist again. That word, exist, hit harder than anything else. I'd been sleeping beside a stranger. A woman living 2 lives. And now, finally, I could hear her voice admitting it. But the worst part? I don't want to be the one to hurt him. But someone has to. The audio ended. I played it again. Then again. And then I finally drove home. Not because I wanted to, but because I needed to hear what excuse she'd give when I told her I knew. Only, when I walked into our apartment, something was off. The lights were on. The bedroom door was closed. And there were 2 glasses of wine on the coffee table. Still half full. Still warm. There was lipstick on one of the glasses. Not Brenna's color. That was the first thing I noticed. Hers was always that deep wine red she claimed made her look less tired. But this was coral pink. Too bright. Too careless. Whoever had been here didn't care about hiding. Or maybe she just assumed I wouldn't notice. I didn't call out her name. I didn't slam a door. I just walked in silently, each step louder in my head than it was in the room. My hand brushed against the counter where her keys used to always sit. They weren't there. Neither was her bag. But the bedroom door? Still closed. Still glowing with the yellow slice of light beneath it. And then, voices. Not loud. Not moaning. Not the cliché disaster you see in movies. Just muffled talking. Intimate. Casual. Like 2 people finishing dessert. Or planning something. I stood there frozen for at least a minute, heart pounding, mind racing through every version of this I had imagined over the past few weeks. But nothing had prepared me for how quiet betrayal actually is. How domestic it sounds. I finally knocked. Silence. Then footsteps. A pause. The door cracked open, and there she was. Hair undone, hoodie off one shoulder, mascara slightly smudged. Her expression didn't show fear. Just disappointment. As if I'd ruined something. She opened the door wider, and for a second I expected to see Bryce behind her. But it wasn't him. It was someone else. A woman. You know how your brain short-circuits when reality doesn't match anything you prepared for? That's what happened. I just stood there, blinking, while the woman on our bed adjusted her top and looked me dead in the eye like I was the one intruding. Brenna didn't say a word. She just walked past me into the kitchen, picked up her wine glass, and took a sip like this was just Tuesday. The woman, tall, silver ring through her nose, maybe early 30s, finally said, "He wasn't supposed to be back yet." I asked the only question I could even form. "Who the hell are you?" She laughed, a low, tired laugh. "Roommate." Then Brenna called out from the kitchen, "Don't be dramatic, Arlo. It's not what you think." Except it was. It absolutely was. Not the version I had rehearsed. Not the man I expected. But betrayal is betrayal, and this wasn't an accident. I walked over to her, holding back everything inside me that wanted to scream. "Was it all a lie?" I asked. She didn't look up from her glass. "It started as the truth." Then, after a pause, she added, "You just stopped being part of it." That sentence hit harder than anything Bryce could have said. She didn't deny it. Didn't ask for forgiveness. Didn't cry. She just told me, in her calm, PR-approved tone, that I had become optional. Like I was a sweater she didn't hate, but didn't want to wear anymore. I looked around our apartment. Our walls, our books, our shared Netflix account paused on a show I thought we both liked. And I felt like a ghost haunting a home that wasn't mine. And in that moment, I realized something. The joke at the party wasn't the beginning. It was the punchline. And the real story, the one with blood and betrayal and secrets nobody wants to say out loud, had started long before that. She didn't apologize. Not that night. Not the next morning. Not even after the other woman left and silence filled the apartment like smoke. We didn't fight. We didn't talk. I barely slept. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw Brenna's face, not in the moment I found her, but in the seconds before, at the party, laughing with him, the way she used to laugh with me. That memory was louder than the truth I'd just witnessed. I waited until she went to work. She didn't even seem nervous to leave me there alone. That should have told me everything. The apartment was quiet, untouched. Her wine glass was still out. The coral lipstick mark still on the rim. The other glass, mine, had been cleared away. Subtle but obvious. Like she was rewriting the night already. I didn't know what I was looking for, but I started searching. Not out of jealousy. That phase was over. Now it was something colder. I wanted the scope of it. I needed to understand how long I'd been living in someone else's plan. I opened her laptop. No password. She'd always bragged about how she didn't need one because there's nothing to hide. That line aged like milk. I checked the browser history. Nothing unusual, probably cleared. I checked her messages. Mostly group chats and a couple of pinned conversations with coworkers. Harmless on the surface. And then I found the calendar. She'd started a new one. Not her main Google Calendar. A secondary one, hidden behind her work account. It was private, synced to a different email. I almost missed it. When I opened it, I stopped breathing. There were color-coded events going back 6 months. None of them included my name. At first glance, they looked like work meetings, vague titles like consult or site review. But the locations? Hotel rooms, upscale restaurants. A few entries were labeled with single letters. D, R, M, and B. Bryce. One entry stood out. It was from 2 months ago. A weekend I remembered clearly because I had gotten sick and Brenna claimed she was flying out to a conference in Seattle. She was gone for 3 days. The entry on the calendar? B. Whispering Pines Cabin, Friday through Monday. No contact. I opened the link attached to the event. It was a PDF receipt for a luxury rental. 2 guests. 1 queen bed. A bottle of wine added as a romantic package. She had flown to a cabin getaway while I was home with a fever, eating soup and watching reruns of The Office. I sat there for a long time, staring at the screen. It wasn't just the lie. It was how comfortable she was with it. How organized. Efficient. Professional. This wasn't an affair. This was logistics. And the longer I looked, the more I realized that Bryce wasn't even the first. The names changed. The cities changed. But the pattern didn't. She'd been living parallel lives for at least a year. Maybe longer. I had been the placeholder. The one who kept the plants watered, the cat fed, the bills paid. The husband on paper. The resume booster. And she, the woman I thought I knew, was a strategist. I thought back to the party. To the joke. Do you two take turns? Or is it more of an open-door policy? It wasn't just a dig. It was an inside joke. One she never expected me to understand. But now I did. And I wasn't going to confront her. Not yet. Not until I had everything. Because suddenly, I wasn't just the betrayed husband anymore. I was the witness. And witnesses? We collect evidence. I didn't say anything for the next 2 days. I played my role. Pretended I was processing things, but not quite ready to talk. That was the easy part. Brenna barely looked me in the eye anymore. It was like I was fading out of her life in real time, and she had already adjusted to the blur. She went to work on time, came back with perfect hair, and scrolled through her phone on the couch beside me like we were just two polite strangers sharing a Wi-Fi signal. But while she pretended, I prepared. I started with her email. Not her main one, but the second one tied to that secret calendar. I'd pulled the recovery information from her laptop. She'd used the same password she always used when signing up for new streaming services. Classic Brenna. Dangerously clever in public, carelessly predictable in private. I got in easily. Most of it was digital dust. Shopping receipts, newsletter spam. But buried deep in a folder labeled Events, I found a chain of confirmations. Dinner reservations. Hotel bookings. Car services. The names of men. Never full names, just initials or usernames. All of it coordinated like a schedule, like a business. There was even a spreadsheet. Color-coded. Names. Dates. Costs. Notes. I wasn't even angry anymore. Not in the way I expected. There was something mechanical about it now. Like reading someone else's job description and realizing your marriage was just another column on a task list. But the moment that shook me hardest didn't come from her laptop. It came from the hall closet. She asked me to pick up her dry cleaning while she was at work. Just tossed me the ticket and said, "It's the blue one. Tell them it's under Langston." Langston is her maiden name. She hadn't used it in years. Not since our wedding. That alone made my skin crawl. I went anyway. And that's when the dry cleaner handed me the envelope. It wasn't with the clothes. It had been stapled to the inside of the garment bag. Plain white. My name, Arlo, written on the front. Nothing else. The employee said, "Oh, I think this was left in by mistake." I opened it right there. Inside was a folded piece of stationery paper and a Polaroid photo. The note was typed. No signature. Just one sentence. "You deserve to know who you're married to." The photo was blurry, slightly overexposed, but unmistakable. It showed Brenna, standing outside a car, wrapped in someone's arms. Not Bryce. Someone older. Grayer. In a suit. Not romantic. But not innocent, either. The timestamp on the bottom read 3 weeks ago. That weekend, she'd told me she was volunteering at a charity event. It hit me then that I hadn't found the photo. Someone had given it to me, which meant someone else knew. Someone close enough to be watching. Someone angry enough to risk getting involved. My marriage wasn't just breaking. It was collapsing under the weight of secrets I didn't even know were mine to carry. So I did what any humiliated man would do when everything stable in his life turns out to be a lie. I started printing. Emails. Screenshots. Calendar events. The spreadsheet. The Polaroid. Everything. I didn't know what I was building, not exactly. But I knew I wasn't going to be gaslit. I wasn't going to be left with just a wine glass and a vague explanation about people drifting apart. No. She wanted an ending? I'd give her one. And she'd never see it coming. Brenna was wearing her presentation outfit when she came home that night. A fitted blazer, white blouse tucked perfectly into slate gray slacks, and the heels she only wore when she needed to impress someone. The second she walked in, I could tell she didn't expect me to be sitting at the dining table, and especially not with my laptop open, a stack of papers beside me, and 2 cups of coffee, one untouched. She hesitated, just long enough for me to catch it. Then she smiled, stiffly, and asked, "Working from home again?" I motioned to the empty chair across from me. "Sit." She didn't move. "What's going on?" "You told me you had a meeting today," I said, looking directly at her. "At 2:30. Boardroom 3. Some strategy thing." "I did," she said quickly, too quickly. "It went long." "That's funny," I replied, sliding a photo across the table. "Because you weren't there." Her hand hovered over the photo, but didn't pick it up. She glanced at it, then at me. I watched the exact moment her brain switched from defense to damage control. Her expression went blank, eyes cold. She was calculating, which meant she wasn't going to lie. Not yet. She was going to stall. "Where did you get this?" she asked. I didn't answer. I just slid over the next page, a printout from her secondary email account. A car service confirmation. Pick up at 2:15. Drop off at a hotel 20 minutes away. "I know everything, Brenna," I said, and for the first time in weeks, my voice was steady. "I know about the spreadsheet. I know about Bryce. I know he wasn't the first. I know this isn't just about attraction or mistakes or bad decisions. This is a pattern, a system. She stared at the papers like she was reading a foreign language. For a second, she looked small. Not sorry, not broken, just caught. What do you want from me? She asked flatly. That question, so transactional, so hollow, shattered what little I had left. It confirmed what I suspected from the beginning. She hadn't stayed with me out of love, or regret, or even guilt. She stayed because it was convenient, because I was predictable, because I wouldn't ask questions until it was too late. I stood up and walked to the cabinet where we kept the wine glasses, pulled out the one with the lipstick stain, the one I hadn't washed on purpose. I placed it on the table next to the folder of printed evidence. Here's what's going to happen, I said. You're going to move out. Tonight. You'll go wherever you want. Bryce's place, the woman from last week, the hotel from today. I don't care. But you won't be here when I wake up tomorrow. Her jaw clenched, but she didn't argue. And if I'm not? She asked, voice quieter now. Then I send everything. I replied. To your boss. To your clients. To your parents. To every person whose name shows up in that spreadsheet. It wasn't a bluff. She knew it. We stood in silence for a moment, both pretending this was a civil conversation between adults, when it was really a burial. The death of something I had protected for too long. The final moment of pretending. She didn't cry, didn't beg. She packed a bag in under 10 minutes, grabbed her keys, and left without saying goodbye. I watched her walk out the door with the same feeling I imagine people have after surviving a car crash. Shaking, sore, but alive. Disoriented by how fast everything changed. And yet, there I was, still standing. I didn't follow her. I didn't check where she went. I just sat back down, opened the folder again, and looked at what was left of the truth. But I wasn't done yet. Because the anonymous note, the photo, the voice memo, someone had been trying to help me. And now, I needed to find out who. It took 3 weeks before I got the second envelope. No return address again. No note inside this time, either. Just a single printed screenshot, black and white, with one subject line at the top. Whispering Pines / client conduct. It was an internal email thread from Brenna's company. HR was tagged, and so was someone named Regional VP, Operations. The kind of people who don't get looped in unless things are serious. I read the thread 3 times, heart pounding a little more each time, not from nerves, but from realization. Someone inside had leaked details. Attached in the thread was a PDF of a concern raised regarding employee behavior and inappropriate use of company resources. Hotel receipts, expense forms, calendar entries, and one blurry, familiar Polaroid photo, the same one I had received earlier. That meant someone I didn't even know had taken what I discovered and fired it into her world like a grenade. The last email in the chain was 1 sentence long. We will need to have a formal conversation. I never got confirmation of what happened next. I didn't need it, but I knew enough about corporate language to translate that one clean sentence into something brutal. Brenna didn't come to get the rest of her things. She sent someone, a moving service. I left everything boxed and labeled, but I kept 2 things, the wine glass with the lipstick and the envelope that started it all. She never asked about either. I found out a few weeks later, through a friend of a friend, that she had left the company. No announcement. No LinkedIn update. Just gone. She didn't get her promotion. Didn't get to pitch the new campaign she'd been working on for months. Bryce, apparently, was transferred to a different office. Internal reshuffling. Quiet fallout. You know what poetic justice looks like in real life. It's subtle. Boring, even. It doesn't scream. It whispers. It ruins reputations slowly. It makes people disappear from company group chats and lunch invites. It stains their professional image just enough to stall momentum. Just enough to make people stop replying to emails. And me? I'm okay. No, I'm better. I moved out of the apartment 2 months later. Started renting a smaller place closer to work. It's not as nice, but it's mine. I bought new plates, a new mattress, and for the first time in years, I'm sleeping through the night. The last piece of the puzzle fell into place when I met the person who sent the envelope. Her name was Marla, HR associate. She'd been at the company less than a year and had seen one too many boys' club incidents brushed under the rug. When she overheard Brenna mocking me at lunch one day, "He's harmless, like a houseplant you forget to water," something in her snapped. She started watching. She started collecting. And when she saw me at the company party, humiliated in front of a room full of people who thought infidelity was a punchline, she decided to do something. She didn't know me. She just knew it wasn't right. We met for coffee, at her suggestion, a few weeks after she heard Brenna had finally left the company. We didn't talk about revenge. We didn't talk about pain. We just talked. And for the first time in what felt like forever, I wasn't explaining myself to anyone. I was just being heard. There's no perfect ending. No grand moment of closure. But I'm not angry anymore. I'm free. And somewhere out there, Brenna's probably still trying to charm her way into the next chapter. But now she knows, somewhere, someone's always watching. And sometimes, the quiet ones answer back.